we weren't planning on having any BBCs during the retreat, but due to the election, I think it's important to say something. So we received a few emails this morning, kind of people requesting that we say something to help them see this in a Dharma perspective. So I just want to read a couple of the things that the people wrote. So people are, of course, half of the country's rejoicing and the other half is crying. So we have a whole variety of emotions. But one person wrote and said, I have no doubt that you've received many emails this morning asking for advice on how to practice now that we have a President Trump in our world. If you could talk a bit on collective karma and the most powerful way for us to purify this. Yeah, I don't feel like ever talking to anyone who voted for him ever again. If you could offer advice on how to find balance with that too. I know everyone wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer, but I can't understand how people could vote for this man fully aware of everything he has said and done, knowing clearly from his own mouth his intention to harm the freedoms and happiness of so many. I don't want to be a part of that group in any way. I wish them well. I include them all in my dedications, while at the same time not really wanting to have anything more to do with them. Okay, so let me address that first. Okay, so, when our wishes are blocked, then we feel angry. And of course, the instinct is to turn and blame others. And I think a lot of us are saying, how in the world did this happen? Even the newsrooms apparently are all stumped and going, we had a whole different program planned for last night. Yeah? And what happened, it seems like even the conservative newsrooms didn't expect him to win. So people are pretty shocked and surprised and, of course, uncertain of what's really going to happen in the future about many kinds of things, what's going to happen internationally, what's going to happen domestically. I was very impressed with Clinton's concession speech. And her really calling for people to come together, and Obama too. Yeah, he really called for people to come together. Last night he made a little clip that says, we've been through a lot with this ruckus, election cycle, but the sun's still going to come up tomorrow, and he was right. So, and then today, saying that he invited Trump to come to the White House tomorrow so they can start the process of transition, because having a peaceful transition is one of the hallmarks of American democracy. So he wants to do whatever he can to make this a peaceful transition. And saying that now we wish, Trump all success in what he does. Yeah, and then also Obama was saying that we need to really see the election as an intramural argument, but we're all kind of on the same side, and this was just a skirmish that happened between ourselves. But now we really need to come together as Americans and go forward. And so I really appreciated that perspective. It's very much in line with, what we try and do on a personal level when we have conflict with people, instead of seeing the problem in the middle and us confronting each other over this problem, to see that we're both on the same side looking at the problem. Okay? So if we can, in America, see, we have problems in this country, and I think that we could probably agree on many of the problems. We don't necessarily agree on the cause of the problems, okay? But we do agree that there's certain things that need dealing with in the country. So if we could look at things in that way and see ourselves all as trying to work for the betterment of everybody here. Whether other people think and feel that way or not, we can't control. But, I was really thinking of, how Obama has the qualities of an excellent leader. What he said yesterday and today, he was really showing leadership qualities. And so that's what we've got to do too, instead of just succumbing either to depression or letting our minds become filled with hatred the same way that we feel other people's minds are. Yeah, because if we just look at other people and, they're bigots, they're this, they're that, and blame them and criticize them, then basically our mind has become exactly like their mind. And that's not what we want to happen to our own mind, because we know that the more we cultivate anger and hatred in our own mind, the worse it is for us. In this life, we're more unhappy, and we create much more negative karma, which creates cause of suffering for future lives. It puts more obscuration on our own mind stream. And, I think this person who wrote this is saying this, in the just, the shock and being stunned. And I think, that underneath, we know that if we have this idea that these other people, all they are, they're just corrupt, they're bigots, they're this and that, then we're really, our mind's becoming just like theirs. We're ascribing a few bad characteristics to people and say, this is who they are, this is who they always have been and always will be. And that's not very fair. We don't like when people look at us and project a stereotype on us, put us in a box, and then say, that's it, that's who you are. So in the same way, we should try and understand what's really going on. I was reading one comment in on the internet, and I found out it was only at the bottom that it said it was written by a rabbi. But he was saying in the thing that, and it really opened my mind to something, that it's always been emphasized, the blue collar whites, the uneducated whites who are the Trump supporters. And that, just seeing them that way it's very condescending, isn't it? They're the uneducated people, so of course they're going to follow somebody like him. And what the rabbi was saying is, very often people who are working on blue-collar jobs feel like they've been left behind on the American dream because, they supposedly had all the opportunity in a meritocracy, and yet they weren't able to reap the benefits and attain the higher classes, have become upper middle or higher class. And so there's an element of shame involved in being a factory worker or a blue class person, a blue collar, having a blue collar job. And the rabbi was saying, we should really see that and see the suffering that exists within these people's heart. And that's, what's fueling when Trump, starts saying these are the people who have no voice, who have been left behind, because in some way they have been left behind. You have they're mostly in rural areas. The educated classes, the wealthy classes are in the city, and they have everything, and there's more economic inequality now than ever before. And so, of course, these people feel not just left behind economically, but a sense of shame for not having made it in the same way that other groups have made it. And so he really suggested that that the Democrats, really open their hearts to these people and show that they understand what's going on in their lives, instead of demeaning them, criticizing them. Oh, these are just the uneducated people. Yeah. And, when I read that, I thought, he's right. And I had never really thought of it that way. But I think what he said has some truth. And so this is the time really for us, especially as Dharma practitioners, to cultivate empathy and to cultivate compassion, for the people who supported Trump, despite the fear that we may feel, either for personal safety or for what's going to happen to the country, but to really, use this as an opportunity for our own spiritual practice and to generate our own good qualities. And in the thought training teachings, one section in the thought training teachings is all about transforming adversity into the path. And why is this like the centerpiece of the thought training teachings? Because we always have adversity. Okay, this is samsara. So adversity is a constant. Yeah, this isn't really anything new. Yeah, adversity is just a constant. So it's what I was saying this morning. It's our playground, so to speak. It's the life that we're living in the middle of. And so we've got to transform it into the path. Yeah, I mean, you can either pretend it doesn't exist or you can go somewhere else. But if we're kind of living in the middle of this and it's kind of worldwide, then we have to find some way to transform it into our spiritual path. The alternative is devolving into anger and hatred ourselves. That doesn't do anything good. Evolving into depression, cynicism, disdain, contempt. That doesn't do any good, doesn't make ourselves or anybody else happy. Or, just greeting this as a challenge. Our life is full of challenges. Nobody ever said our life should be challenge-free. Yeah, so here's another challenge. Here's how we practice. We use the Dharma tools that the Buddha has so kindly taught to us, to enlarge our perspective on other living beings so that we can see they're not just, we can't just assign individuals some stereotypical insulting image and then toss them away. They're individuals who want happiness and don't want suffering. Okay? And had we grown up in their situation, we might have voted as they did too. We don't know. Okay? So whatever it is, we have to take care of our mind. If we don't take care of our mind, then we're going to lose everything. Yeah? Not only in this life, but in future lives. Yeah? Okay, then another person wrote and said, would it be possible for you to do a BBC talk inspiring us to use the election results as an opportunity to grow our compassion and kind action so we don't engage in the negativities that may be provoked in our minds? So that's what I was just talking about. Maybe also encouraging us to guard our minds against our destructive thoughts. I'm watching people on social media already having lots of negative thoughts about the future. But our thoughts are just that, ideas, fantasies. I think if we can focus on showing up well now, we will create a better future. And for sure, I don't join in social media, but I can only imagine people creating all sorts of horror stories about what's going to happen now that the election happened the way it did. This is going to happen, that's going to happen, this whole thing's going to fall apart, and then there's going to be world wars, and on and on and on. We can create quite a horror story. So, and in a similar way, we can create a horror story regarding our own lives when something, unwanted happens. Oh, I'm losing my job. Oh, I'm going to be out on the streets, and then this and that, and I'll die of the frozen winter. And we create a horror story. So it's quite important not to create horror stories, because what's the use? We don't know what's really going to happen. So, developing the mind that is suspicious, anxious, fearful, that kind of attitude doesn't help us at all. We really have to go forward with our kind heart and trust people as much as we can, be kind to people as much as we can, and, as they say, create the kind of future that we want to have, irrespective of how other people act or treat us, to go forward with our kind heart. And, that's what practice is really all about, isn't it? Working with what's going on in our mind. And this is the reality of the situation we're in. And I remember one of my Dharma friends years ago, when I was complaining about some problem I had, he said, well, what do you expect? This is samsara. And I wanted to say, well, I expect perfection. But that's rather a dumb expectation, isn't it? Yeah. So, so it's samsara. There's problems, undoubtedly. Personally speaking, I feel that, looking on my life, I've had incredible opportunities that most people in this planet have not had. So now there's a little bit of adversity and challenge. Well, why not? Most of the on this planet have faced a lot more adversity and challenge than I have. And, rather than dream up all these, worst case scenarios, to just take the positive that I've gained from having the incredible freedom in my life and leisure to meet the Dharma and practice the Dharma, to take that with now going into the future, rather than complaining about what's happening. We just kind of have to go forward with a good intention and a hopeful heart and do our best, and create camaraderie, create connectivity among human beings whenever there's the possibility. Because, our interpretation, our attitude is what creates the reality. And if we're upset and cynical and depressed, we will see everybody like that. The entire world becomes like that. And even people who are being kind and loving to us, we can't see it because all we're seeing is everything through the veil of our own cynicism and our own anger and depression or whatever. So we have to change that veil that we're seeing things through, or take it away and really see the kindness that is there. And that's one thing that I've learned personally. The Abbey is located in eastern Washington State. This is a Trump area. You look on the map and it's bright red. But the people, we know the people in town, and we mingle with them and so on. And they're nice people. They're nice people, aren't they? At Albany Falls, the people at Yes, all these people that we deal with in town at the bank, it doesn't matter what political party you're in or who you voted for, and we tried not to talk about that with any of the people that we relate to. But if we relate one-on-one, then we're quite fine, and they're kind people. So I think let's keep it like that and go forward with that kind of, I want to say expectation, but not a solid expectation, but that kind of attitude on our part. And then we can see that there's goodness and kindness in everybody, and that it's possible to get along with all sorts of different people. Okay? So, let's practice.
I think the thing that has really stirred deeply in my heart is that the people who voted for Donald Trump are really holding a promise there with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's made a pretty profound promise for them to make changes. And even though he has said that he might be the only one to be able to do that, my heart has some compassion knowing that that may be an impossibility. And then what happens?
Yes.
When you put all your dreams into this one person because you're so yearning to get what you need, and then he's making all these promises, and then you give everything to him out of faith, maybe not on a great foundation, but the faith's there, and then perhaps that's not going to happen.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at what Trump has promised people, it's impossible. You've had engineers and economists study the idea of building a wall along the Mexican border. They say it's impossible. It's engineering-wise, it's impossible. Yeah, and yet he's promised that. Or, different kinds of things that he's promised, because he's a reality TV star. So you can say anything you want. It doesn't really matter. And he's, it's kind of like, what do you call them? The preachers in the South, revivalist preachers. That's really what his talks are like, And so you're right, people are believing in him and turning that over to him. And it's going to be pretty hard for him to come through. Yeah? And he's going to for sure face some criticism. Yeah? And those people are for sure going to be disappointed if they're thinking that this one person is going to be able to control the entire U.S. government. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm.
Playing on their fears, and the thing that came months ago was this quote that came out of Mein Kampf that Hitler had written, and it said, it showed him, Hitler, in fact my mother said I became a baby listening to him on the radio in the 40s. And I would cry because this man was like, oh. So what they translated was from Mein Kampf was that Hitler would say, and you may have heard it, I'm going to make America great. I'm going to get you jobs. He was playing on their fears. And
For sure.
in position now.
Yep.
Playing on fears.
Mm-hmm.
They responded to it, and they think he's going to give it to them. And I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Thomas Camp and Friedman, who brought us down with this raising and lowering interest rates, there was nothing done. It's just playing on fear.
Yeah.
Good luck, because
Yeah.
he needs help from everybody.
Right. Exactly. Because it's one thing to have, I was thinking of that, when you're campaigning, all you see is crowds of people chanting your name, applauding, crying with joy. But it's like that every presidential campaign for both sides, Governing is a whole different ball game. As soon as you're inaugurated, there's no more talks to all these people who are cheering and loving you. That never happens when you start governing, does it? What you hear when you start governing is, you did this and we didn't like it, and why didn't you do that? And what you hear is criticism. So he's in, I think, Donnie is for a big surprise. And it will be very interesting to see how mentally he handles this, because signs haven't shown that he is that he has the ability to deal with criticism. So I suspect it will be quite difficult for him. Yeah. So maybe that's why Obama said, let's wish him well. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Obama knows. All the presidents know what it's like to deal with criticism, isn't it? I mean, anytime you're a leader, that's the first qualification. The first job description is you are responsible for everything that the other people don't like. Yeah? And you've got to be able to take it. Otherwise, forget it. So let's wish him luck.
Or just separately, I felt sad that this person wrote in and said they didn't want to speak to someone again, because really this is the time people have to empathize and listen.
Yes.
Just from the perspective of, Singapore government is actually very pro-immigration, very liberal in that way. And the populace is like frustrated by that. And they almost lost the vote 1 year for that reason. But the government had to turn around and listen for the first time. And it was a huge exercise in listening.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the listening.
Yeah, the listening is very important. And to remember that, what is it? 50.2% did vote for Hillary. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, actually, I can understand how that person feels, because I think what happens is that if someone voted for Trump, and then you think of all the things that he said and instigated, like about women, about every group, insulted and actively promoted harming. And if you think, oh, this person that says they're my friend, so you're saying they support that because they voted for him, even though that's not why they voted for him, but it's kind of implying that, oh, you agree with what he said about folks.
Yeah.
And you call yourself my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand where the person might be coming from.
Yeah.